Hi guys and welcome to Motorsport. Behind me you'll find my 2010 Jaguar XF S portfolio. It's a 3-liter V6 diesel with 275 horsepower and it's time to do an oil change on that one. So first of all I put it on ramps. That's how I do usually the oil changes here. I don't have a lift or not yet, so that's really good to have a ramp, and especially have it up, put the handbrake on, the emergency brake which brakes the rear wheels, so everything holds nice and tightly. Safety first. So let's go in and pop the hood, which is just down here on the left side. On the driver's side, I don't know if on the right-hand drive cars it's also on the left side, or if they move it over to the right side, which would still be the driver's side for those cars. And of course there's a little lever here, right here. Pull it up. And what I usually do, obviously you can't feel it, you can't see it, the engine is hot. I warmed up the car, I drove around, filled it up also, just so all of the old oil is coming out. So this is the oil filler cap, remove this. And for other maintenance, I'll also remove the entire cover. This is just plugged in, you can just remove it like so. Obviously I'm holding my camera with one hand. This is just clipped in at those specific places here. You can see those here. You just have to pull gently. You can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera, it's kind of, the oil is steaming out on top. Let's go down below and have a look at what we have to remove to get to the oil pan. So obviously, because everything is shielded with plastic covers, which is great because it keeps the car clean and protected, we need basically an 8mm socket and a 10mm socket to remove a couple of bolts. Here you have an 8mm on either side, so two of these. Then you have another one there, which is 10mm. And then as you go behind, following the exhaust, there is yet another 10mm here on either side, so everything is doubled. And that's it. So actually 6 bolts, 2 are 8mm and 4 are 10mm. Here we go, I took the shield off. Actually I stand corrected, they are 8 bolts, not 6. But 2 of them are 8mm, the front ones, and the rest of them are 10mm. The water you can see here, this is just condensation from the AC compressor. It's summer, so there's condensation when it's running, and therefore there's a bit of water dropping, but that's all normal. Let's have a look underneath. Now that we have a good access, we can see everything. This is the gearbox, transmission, ZF or ZF 6-speed automatic. And then we have the oil pan here. Let me just check for the size of the nut. There is the drain plug and there is a rubber gasket inside. This is the, I suppose this is the oil level, well basically the dipstick. There's no physical dipstick that you can pull out on top of the engine. There's just an electronic one that you can check on the dash when the engine is cold or cold enough. So this is so the drain plug is a 30mm size. I'm just taking my ratchet, loosening it a bit, and then once it's just hand tied, I can do the rest by hand. Need a little bit more help with the ratchet. Trick is done when it comes out to gauge how far it will splash. Also bear in mind this is quite hot. And we've already opened up the top filler so it can flow out quite easily. Yeah, that's what you want to actually avoid, is to the drain plug to fall into the catch can, but that's okay. Nice, good flow, hot oil. Hopefully everything's gonna come out. So you're supposed to, well, like what the manual says, it's like 6.6 liters with the filter. So you need to make sure you have a big enough catch can to get all of the oil out. Meanwhile, why have I taken off the cover here is actually to access the oil filter. And the oil filter is just here in between the two banks. And you need a 32mm nut to open up the housing. It's just an open filter that's in the housing, but let's get it off and replace that. As I said, this is a 32mm nut. Just put it on top, get the wrench, loosen it, and while you loosen it, obviously I still have I'm still draining the oil on the bottom, so there might be more oil coming through, so leave your oil pan, catch can underneath the open oil pan. As air goes through, there might be more oil going through. Lift it up, and this is where the messy part comes. Filter stays stuck. Usually it stays inside because it's attached slightly. This one hasn't. That's the filter. So here's the housing with the rubber O-ring. Take this off with a screwdriver. Jesus, still really hot. Wow. Tie this up. So you can see the old filter here. And there's a brand new filter which goes in here. Usually you just put it in and it pops in like so. But then also remember to get the new O-ring that's delivered with the filter. And then we're gonna get a little bit of oil. So Jaguar recommends 5W30, and there's actually a I usually am not too picky about getting the exact specification for that engine, but for this one I am. And just for you to see it, here's the Jaguar specification, Jaguar Land Rover, and the Ford specification, because I mean obviously this was built while Jaguar was owned by Ford, and this is a Ford Peugeot engine, WSS M2C934B specification. From here onto the O-ring, just so when you close it off, when you tighten it up, it doesn't damage the ring and it seals properly. Once that's done, I can put it on to the oil filter housing. Make sure it's properly seating in its proper location. Here. Now we can put it back in the car. So usually I would put oil in the oil filter before I put it in back into the engine or mount it on the engine, but because this filter goes in upside down, there's really no point because it would just all gush out. So that's just when you put in oil for a filter that's mounted up from the bottom onto the engine block, then it makes sense, so that avoids the engine for running for like a brief period without being lubricated. But I mean, if they've designed the engine like this, there's not really another choice you have. That's it. Just put it back on. Make sure that here the hoses are not clipped. And other electrical elements. And get the ratchet. I'm sure there's a torque specification for this. I basically just bolt it down until it's tight, or it kind of stops. But it's plastic. Housing is plastic anyway, so how hard are you gonna squeeze on it? Like it just still goes in freely now. See, now it stops. And just give it a little bit more, and that's enough. See, that's it. Now it's time to get the oil back out that we've just drained. Fish out the drain plug, put a new seal on the drain plug, put it back onto the oil pan, fill it up with oil. Now, the not so great news is that my drain plug is somewhere in here, so I got this rod trying to fish it out. Like a magnet on a stick. There we go. There we go. Simple and always works. Well, I can see here that the rubber sealant hasn't come off, so we're going to have to check on the oil pan if it's still stuck on there. So here's the new sealant. I always leave all the parts and part numbers and brands in the description of the video, so check it out there. If you're familiar to my videos, then you already know that. Put this on here. And let's check the oil pan, if that rubber is still, the old one is still on the old pan, sticking there. Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, the rubber oil ring is still there. Just take a screwdriver, make sure you remove that. Really shouldn't have that on as you put the new one on. So we have the new sealant here on the drain plug. I'm just gonna pop it on, and then there will be a little bit of oil that will, or maybe I'll just, yeah, it will be all on anyways. That will also work as a sealant, as it's still dripping out a little bit. See, let's go. And then I'm gonna take my ratchet. Tighten this up. Tight, but again, don't break it off. Clean this off. That's it. Now let me get my funnel. And then let's get the oil in. Crazy the difference you see in the oil versus the new one. The new one smells nice, like golden clear. The old one, especially on diesel, gets kind of really dark and smells of soot really early actually. The recommendation from Jaguar for oil changes, the intervals are actually bigger than, it's at least 16,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles, or even more so, depending on driving conditions obviously, but always change the oil in my cars at the 10,000 kilometers interval, or even less, like on kit, on my Firebird, usually once a year, even though I don't drive as much. I don't even drive 5,000 kilometers a year. I'm 6 liters in now. The recommendations are 6.6 liters, so I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to close it up. I'm going to start it up and then let it cool down again and do the oil level check with the electronic dipstick, and see whether I still need to add up a little bit of oil or if it's already fine. Meanwhile, I can put the cover back on top. I can put the cover back on the bottom, take the car down the ramps, and then let it cool down a little bit, and obviously check the oil level again. Alright guys, I think you saw me tinkering around here with the drains. When I do a service on the car, I always make sure that all the drains are clear. It's basically like the gutters in your house. Make sure that you have some drains here, and then there's some leaves here. Well, sometimes, just whatever you have here, these drains, they get clogged up by leaves and dirt and stuff, and just make sure you clear those regularly. So, because if that's not clear, water can't get down here, so water will always find a way to kind of go somewhere else, and then it will go into places where it's not supposed to be, into electronic stuff, kind of sit there and corrode stuff that's not supposed to corrode, and then you'll be in a heap of problems. So make sure that you always drain your gutters, your drains. Yeah, look at it like your house gutters. If your house gutters are not drained, then if they're clogged up, you get problems as well. Now, while I'm waiting for the oil to set down so I can measure it, I'm going to reset the service lights. So I have my diagnostics tool. It's from iCarsoft, and specifically for all the Jaguar and Land Rover models from the mid-90s, I would say, until today. And there is a procedure you can do with the indicator stock and whatnot, and like I've seen it on YouTube, but it's quite complicated to reset the engine oil service warning message on the dashboard without a diagnostics tool, but I found it too complicated. And I mean, these are not super expensive. I bought a couple of years ago. It just connects to the OBD2 port, and you can update it online for free. Just going to connect this to the OBD2 port and then reset the service light. So the OBD2 port for diagnostics tool on the Jaguar XF X250 is here on under the dash on the driver's side, down here below. Basically there's already an opening, you just need to plug it in, and then it comes alive. Now for the whole thing to work, we're going to switch on the ignition. So it says Wartung erforderlich, means service needed. Then we go into service, oil reset, Jaguar. I'm going to the latest version. Select the model, XF 2010-2011. This is what this car is. It's 2010 model year. Then diesel V6, oil service counter reset. Okay. Set ignition switch to on, which it is now. It's on now. Set ignition switch off. Switching it off. It's off. Communicating, please wait. Application failed. Do it again. Maybe it didn't work because I had already ignition set on, switched on while starting. Oil service, yes. Set the oil service counter, okay. Okay. Now switch it on, switch the ignition on. Confirm. Now switch it off. Confirm. Okay. Application complete. All right. So now when I switch the ignition back on, it says the hood is open, or the bonnet is open. Press the brake to start the car, but so far it doesn't say that the so the service light is gone. That's reset. Fairly simple, and then you just have to plug out the cable and you're done. Alright, it's been a few minutes, car's been sitting. I'm going to switch on the ignition and see if I can measure the oil level. You basically do this by hitting the trip computer button here on your stock. It says bonnet open, go through, and then Füllstand means the level of oil. It's half full, so I'm going to add another half a liter or 6 deciliters. So I've added another half a liter, approximately a little bit more. Switch on the ignition. Go through the... oh, it's still not completely full. Maybe it just needs a bit more time. And by the way, when you see the gauge here from 0 to full, that's not the 6.6 liters, that's approximately 1 liter. So when I was in the middle, it roundabout told me to add another half a liter, a little bit more. So maybe I just need to let it sit a little bit longer. Now I've added yet more oil. This car loves oil. Luckily it doesn't, yeah. I think, yeah, it was almost there, but I think it still needs to kind of trickle down all the way down to the gauge before I can make a proper measure. There's no point in putting more oil now in there. I've put in just about 6.6 liters now. I don't want to overfill it, so I'm really going to let it sit for the moment. Anyways guys, that's the oil change, oil and oil filter change, and also the oil reset on my 2010 Jaguar XF S diesel V6 portfolio. I think that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. Check out all the other videos on the Jaguar series and also my other videos if you're interested that are already made or are about to be published. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you guys. Bye.